Hello, my friends. Welcome to Lindy's Magpie Reads. I like to film outside, but I am doing this indoors because it's only 8 degrees out there this morning in Victoria. Nice, quiet Sunday morning, but my dog is on my lap. This is Joni. She might be coming and going, just so you know what's going on here. I have 7 books to tell you about that I have finished recently, and 6 of these are by Canadian authors. 3 of them are actually finalists for the Governor General's Awards, and I recently had a conversation with Sean Breathes Books about the Governor General's finalists, the GGs, we call them. So I'm going to include a link down below to that conversation. When I edited that initial conversation, something went wrong. It's never happened to me before, but there was an audio shift, so our mouths didn't quite match up with the audio. So annoying. I don't know how it happened. But anyway, I did upload a corrected version, and so that's what I'm going to link to below. So 3 of the books that I'm going to tell you about are actually finalists for the GGs. Starting with, this is a long title, The Memoirs of Miss Chief Eagle Testickle, a true and exact accounting of the history of Turtle Island. This is volume 1, and it's by Kent Monkman and Gisèle Gordon. And there is the beautiful book, a hardcover book. It is full of paintings. There's just one example. And I'm going to put it down because it is heavy. I listened to the audiobook, which is read by Gail, Maurice, who is a Cree speaker. There are a lot of Cree words in this novel, which I'm calling it a novel, and that's the category that it's in as a finalist on the GGs, but it's hybrid because it's also true history. And there's a long section of notes at the back that tell you where these contents are coming from. But the history, which is from a Cree Indigenous worldview, is told. The memoirs are by a fictional character. Now, this character is the alter ego that the painter Kent Monkman has been using in a lot of his paintings since about 2002. And that person is Miss Chief Eagle Testickle. So just to back up a little bit, you might have heard of Kent Monkman. He's an internationally known painter. He is gay. He is Cree. And his co-author on this book is Gisèle Gordon, who is a settler who moved to Canada with her family from the UK. And this is a debut for both of them. They have both been involved in film and multimedia in the past. Kent Monkman is also a performance artist. And this book is just so much fun, very tongue-in-cheek, also very sexy. Miss Chief in the book says that in our people's way of seeing the world, sex is part of everything and everywhere. It's as natural as breathing. So yes, it's very sexy, but celebrating sex as such a joyous thing. It's a part of creation and regeneration. And Miss Chief, she's a lover, not a fighter, and she is doing everything she can to help her people as colonizers arrive on Turtle Island, also known as North America. So there are 2 volumes to this set. And volume 1 starts with the creation of the world and goes up to 1867 at the moment of Confederation of Canada. And then volume 2 starts at Confederation and goes up to present day. I haven't yet read volume 2, but I'm very much looking forward to it. I listened to the audiobook twice. Well, actually, within the production, the book is there twice. So in the first part of the audio, which is about 6.5 hours long, Gail Morris reads the book straight through. And then and then she also reads the Cree vocabulary, because there's quite an extensive vocabulary. And then in the second part of the audiobook, which is about 8.5 hours long, this time Gail Morris reads the text, but every time that there's a note that applies to what she's saying, Gisèle Gordon reads that part. And I found it quite fascinating to have the context added every time. So I've read it through twice, and now I'm going to have the physical book, and I'm really looking forward to a third read. This is one that I decided I have to have on my shelves. It is that good. Next up is a book from the category of translation. It's So Long, Sad Love by Mirion Malle. Mirion Malle is from France. She now lives in Quebec, and I have previously read one of her graphic novels. This is How I Disappear, and I have talked about it on my channel. That one is about a young woman who she's coping with mental health struggles. And in this latest one, so this one is, I think, the same translator, Aleshia Jensen. This one is about a bisexual protagonist, Chloe. And when chapter 1 opens, she's at a comics festival, signing books at a table. And through the book, we can see how time passes because the black roots on her hair color are growing out. So in the opening scenes, Chloe goes out for dinner with a friend, and she meets some other women there at the table, including someone who knows Chloe's boyfriend. And this other woman's reaction when she finds out that Chloe is going out with Charles really sets off some alarm bells for Chloe. And because of that reaction, Chloe starts paying more attention to her relationship with Charles and how he treats her. Things go downhill. And I really like the way that a woman's reaction to being in an abusive relationship is portrayed. So, for example, when she's staying at a friend's place and says she feels so stupid, and her friend says, "It's not you. You're not the stupid one." And the way that she's constantly harassed by this guy. And so the novel is showing how she moves forward. And it's definitely a feel-good story, including finding out who your true friends are. Now, one thing that bothered me about the technical aspect of this book is that in places, the lettering is so close together that there's no spaces between words. And I was reading a digital edition, so I don't know if there's the same problem in the print edition. I'm guessing probably not, because this is published by Drawn and Quarterly, a Canadian publisher of graphic novels, and it seems like this is not the kind of mistake that you would see in one of their books, which are normally of very high quality. So just a slight annoyance. And the third book I want to tell you about is in the category of young people's literature illustrated. It's a picture book. I'm Afraid, Said the Leaf is by Danielle, and Matt James. Both creators are Canadians who've received acclaim for their previous work. The paintings in here by Matt James are absolutely gorgeous. That's gouache on masonite, and they really make the book. The text is very simple. I'm afraid, said the leaf. You're not alone, said the tree. I might fall, said the bird. I will lift you, said the wind. And it continues in that vein. So we see the inner lives of the characters who are in this picture book. And overall, it is conveying the interdependence of all living things on this planet. So very rewarding message. And I would say it's suitable for ages 4 to 7. Next up is another children's book. This one is middle grade. It's Out of the Dark by Julie Lawson. Julie Lawson has written many books for children and young adults, and she lives right here in Victoria, BC. And this book is up for a City of Victoria Book Prize, and I have been invited to attend the ceremony, so I'm really excited to go to this gala event. I've actually never been to a book awards ceremony live in the past, and that's going to be happening on October 16th, so I'll tell you about it in my next video. This book is historical fiction, and there is a lot going on in it. It's about a 12-year-old girl, Jane Mooney. She has, I think, 6 siblings. They live in Halifax, and their family's really poor. Their father is a violent alcoholic. And when it opens, it's December 6th of 1917. That's an important date. It was the date of the Halifax explosion. A ship called the Monkman was transporting a whole bunch of explosives to the war, and it collided with another ship in the Halifax harbor. It was, possibly still is, the largest man-made, non-nuclear explosion in the world. About 2,000 people died, 9,000 people were injured, 30,000 people were left homeless, and this was one of the worst winters ever in Halifax. Right after the explosion, there was a blizzard, so many difficulties, and then there was the Spanish flu that hit around that time too. So much going on. Now, Jane does have an older sibling, Connor, who lies about his age and has enlisted in the war. So he's not there when all of this goes on. But we do hear from him through his journals and letters home, and the hardships there are made clear. So this is tough going as far as, talking about the way things really were. But it also is so relevant today with domestic violence, poverty, a global pandemic, the effects of war. And the character, Jane, when we first meet her, she's pretty unsavory. She's rough, she's mean, she's ready to knock down another girl and steal from her. And she really changes over the course of this novel. So seeing her character arc is really excellent. And this is a book that got me cooking in the kitchen because one of the cakes that is mentioned is a wartime cake. So during the rationing, this one, I think it's called trench cake, where raisins and spices are used instead of sugar, and it doesn't have milk in it. There's only a little bit of butter, and I had to find a recipe online and make myself one of these cakes. And it was yummy. Yes. Next up is an audiobook, The Capital of Dreams by Heather O'Neill. Heather O'Neill is very well known as a novelist, short story writer, and essayist in Canada, right from her debut novel, Lullabies for Little Criminals, which got lots of accolades and awards. She was born and raised in Montreal, and her father changed his French surname to O'Neill because, according to her, he thought that French Quebecois were discriminated against. Anyway, in this latest book, it's in many ways a classic Heather O'Neill. It's dark and fable-like. Our central protagonist is 14 years old, Sophia Bottom, and it's a coming-of-age story. War is going on, and her companion is a talking goose. She has been sent away with all the children from the capital. Her mother was a famous intellectual, a writer, a feminist activist, and she sent her manuscript with Sophia to get it out of the country, to let people know what's happening, and also to save their culture. If you haven't read Heather O'Neill before, I'm going to read you some of her chapter titles, which will just give you an idea of the inclusion of whimsy that she has. I heard the icicles singing, sprinkle me in icing sugar before I die. The wolves danced on the ceiling. The saboteur wears patent leather shoes, and pink is a state of mind. I listened to an interview that Heather O'Neill did about this novel with Matea Roach on CBC's program Bookends. I will link that down below because you can listen to it as a podcast. And in it, one of the things that they talked about is how motherhood and creativity intersect. In this novel, there's also the idea of how culture is part of our identity, and the precarious nature of being a woman coming of age, and how war can make that even more difficult. There were times when I felt like, is this story ever going to end? But, by the time I got to the end of it, I felt that it was very rewarding. Yeah. For me, it wasn't exactly 5 stars, but it was still a great book. And another audiobook, The Cure for Drowning by Loghan Paylor. Now, Paylor is a queer trans author from British Columbia, and this is their debut. I actually did this as a text and audio combo. So I do have the book. It's a big, fat one. It's historical fiction that starts in 1941 and ends in 1953. and it's mostly covering the period of World War II. Queer characters are front and center in this book. So Kit McNair is the middle child in their family, and their older brother is Landon. So these two are in a love triangle with a neighboring girl, Rebecca, who is German-Canadian, and she's bisexual. All four of the young people in this novel, the three McNair siblings and Rebecca, end up enlisting. So Landon goes into the Navy, Kit gets into the Air Force. Rebecca is stationed in Halifax, and she's intercepting German messages as part of naval intelligence. And then later on, Jep as well, when he comes of age, he's also in some branch of the military. So the narrative alternates between Kit and Rebecca, and it's in first person. And in the audio performance, there are two narrators. And the one who's playing Kit is also an actual non-binary person. It's Landon Doak, which is cool when a publisher does that. I really like it. And then there's a third narrator with a slightly different perspective that's in the kind of the epilogue section. All in all, a very enjoyable read. Last up, so this is the only book that isn't by a Canadian author. This is Walking on the Ceiling by Aysegul Savas. And Aysegul Savas grew up in Turkey and Denmark, and now she lives in Paris. I think she's lived there for about 10 years, and this is her debut. You can see some of the flags in here. Every chapter is very brief, often 1 or 2 pages, sometimes only a really short paragraph. So this kind of fragmentary style really appeals to me. I read this as a buddy read with my subscriber, Amelia, who lives in Germany, and we had very different reactions to it. It was a disappointment for her. I thought it was fabulous. So we did have a really good time talking about it and getting to know each other better. So the novel is about a Turkish young woman. She's in her early 20s, and she's living in Paris. Her father died when she was very young, and she's had a strained relationship with her mother. At the point that the novel begins, her mother has died, but she's still dealing with kind of the grief, the fallout of her early life. And Nunu as a character, I just found so relatable because she reminded me of myself when I was that age, of still figuring out who I was. This is very much a story that's concerned with identity and with memory and how we create memories. Chapters often go back and forth between present day and the past. Nunu meets a man who's a writer, and they spend a lot of time walking through Paris, and I could identify with that too. Not just that I love the city of Paris, but walking as a way to figure out emotions and work out problems and concerns. Yeah, there's not a lot that happens in the book. It's a very quiet novel. I found there was a synchronicity between the mother-daughter relationship in this book and the one in Heather O'Neill's The Capital of Dreams that I told you about. In Walking on the Ceiling, Nunu's mother at one point says she wishes that she was a man, and you get the sense that she was unfulfilled in her life as it turned out. And in The Capital of Dreams, the mother there seems to be doing a better job of balancing creativity and motherhood, but Heather O'Neill's real mother actually was gay and seemed to have had more difficulty. I'm definitely going to read more by Aysegul Savas. Her new book that just came out in July is called The Anthropologists, and Matea Roach interviewed Savas about it on Bookends. The link will be down below if you're interested. But one thing that really caught my attention in that interview is that Savas said the themes and ideas that compel her are routines and how we use them to establish our identities. She said, the beauty of everyday life can be compared to a still life painting. It's, just the way that it makes you see everyday things differently. So coming off a month of focusing on art with our Framed in September readathon, I'm still thinking about things like still life paintings, and I am going to end this with a book that I picked up for both Framed in September and Strea September. It's a collection of still life paintings by contemporary Australian painters. So that will be in the outro. So thank you all so much for watching. I always appreciate hearing from you, so please do say hello in the comments down below. It's always good to hear from you. I wish you all well. I will see you all soon in the next one. And in the meantime, happy reading. Bye for now.